Hi, friends. Thanks for tuning in to the Mental Fitness Unscripted podcast, where our conversation will encourage your healthy living journey. Inspired by our Team Quadzilla coaching motto, healthy living starts between your ears, we talk about mental fitness in ways that challenge us to think about our thinking regarding topics like habits, leadership, exercise, values, marriage, parenting, and faith. Our hope with this podcast is to sharpen you as we sharpen ourselves to be all we were made to be. So let's dive right into the conversation on this episode of Mental Fitness Unscripted.
Good morning, Chad.
Good morning.
I love how you're reverting. It's June, almost July, and you're reverting back to February with your Puxatawny there.
Yeah, Punxsutawney Phil.
Yay!
Maybe this is how I'm celebrating that it's been upper 90s here all week.
Okay.
And in February I'm whining about I can't wait for it to be summer. And now it's summer and it's really hot and a lot of people are freaking out about that. And honestly, I don't mind it so much. It's okay for me.
It actually froze Monday night here.
What? Oh my gosh.
We're not part of the heat dome that you guys are having.
Yeah, I guess.
That was weird to wake
Wow.
up and go for a walk and there's frost on all that. Yeah, it's only right now it's only 58, so
Yeah.
we'll have a
Yeah.
high. So I don't know if you can see it or not, but whoops, I hit something there. But our low is
High
49
84.
and
Yeah.
84. So
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a big temperature swing in a day.
yeah, it's fun. This time of year, you can use your defroster for the windshield and the air conditioning in the afternoon. So defroster in the morning, air conditioning in the afternoon. It's
Wow.
fun. You wear a sweatshirt and shorts in the morning, and then you're in t-shirt and shorts, and
Right.
yeah. Anyway,
Huh.
so well, back to family stuff. I'll let you lead it
Yeah.
out, man.
Yeah. So last week we were talking about the responsibility and the blessing of family, and we kind of got into things about, you know, the different definitions of family and um, the responsibility that family carries in terms of, you know, developing our next generation, and that any kind of real change in our culture has to start at home, and home is important. And I like what you said is um, home is the best university, and things of that sort. So just in continuing with that kind of theme, I wanted to see if we could talk about maybe some real practical things that we can or should be thinking about and then doing to support a high quality, positive family environment. Um, so I don't know. What do you think about that? Maybe let's start there.
I think it's a great idea to visit about that, but here again, we're going to go back to what do you identify as? How do you define what is a good
Yeah.
quality? I mean, we're just going to go right back to it. And I guess where I'm headed with that is you've got to make a conscious effort to think this through. It's not just something that's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's not true because it will just happen, but you can be in control of it. And I say that tongue in cheek because that's not always true. You're not in total control, but you can direct it, or you can just let it direct you. Um, there's a saying that I like, and I'm going to slaughter it here. But there are two types of things. There's things to be acted upon, so like this pencil, it's inert. It'll just sit here. Or there are things to act. And me as a person, I can act upon this pencil and have it do wonderful things. But the pencil itself can't act. And so we can advocate our responsibility or our potential, if you will, to, and here again, I'm going to use the word control, but direct control. What outcome do you want for your family? And that's
Yeah.
hard. That is really hard. But I really think that's where it begins. Is what do you want?
Yeah. I really like what you're saying about the taking action part, because I think that's an area where I struggle often, and I see in other people too, and maybe even generally speaking, there's a lot of inaction taking place, a lot of happening upon us that we're just like, kicking rocks and woe is me, this is just how it is, or whatever, instead of being proactive and being intentional and working through these really hard things that are uncomfortable, and in order to get an outcome that we really want or we envision, because it's not just going to happen. And for me, gosh, let's just, for someone who would look upon my life and maybe start checking boxes to be like, okay, so he's been married a long time. That's great for family. Check. Oh, he goes to church. Ooh, another check. Ooh, he has a steady job for a long time. Check. Oh, he doesn't stay out late at night, doing stupid stuff with the guys, and he's home and whatever. Check. Okay, so what? I mean,
Right.
those things may be indicative of kind of a baseline or a 101 kind of level of, here's a guy that's, being in control of his family and his family situation and trying to build that up. But is there more? I mean, what else could there be? And I don't want this to be about, here's where I'm going. Again, very unplanned here. I don't have
Here's the
a script here.
transparency.
I've just got some ideas in my head that I'm not quite sure how to spit out, but rather than getting on a platform like this and saying, okay, here's the things that you need to do in order to have a great family, check the box, check the tactics aren't going to get you there.
Mm-mm.
It's much more about becoming the kind of person who can execute, right? So this is a thing that I'm working on right now. For me, is setting aside somebody else's list of tactics or tricks or to-dos that's going to make me a great family man or a great husband or whatever. And instead, it's more about, who do I need to become? I need to build me and grow and improve me, and automatically these other outcomes will happen. Does that make sense, or would you argue against that?
No, it makes total sense, and I love your new word, automatically.
Yeah.
I love that. That's awesome. No, I totally agree, and I'm sitting here as you're going through that, going, you know what? We're creatures of comfort. We want to be comfortable,
Oh
and
my.
to remain comfortable, we like the status quo. Um, for me to stop and say, okay, what do I want in my family? That requires some effort, and it's very uncomfortable to go inside of myself and say, okay, here's what I want, because um, just by default, there comes an inherent responsibility that I now have to fulfill by making that decision. And that's uncomfortable. And so we resist that. And
Mm-hmm.
there's something inside going, man, I just don't, let the school do it. They'll do all right. I'll pay my taxes, and I'll go to work and do my thing, and the school will take care of it. Or let the church take care of it. The pastor, he's a good guy. I'm, whatever. Um, Friends, they're pretty good. I'll let them do it. And we seek that comfort of not having to stretch, and
Mm.
that growth only comes out of uncomfortableness.
Yeah.
That's the only place it comes from. And if you want growth in your family, there's a thing that we have to do, and step back and do like you said. Instead of the checkbox and somebody telling me what to do, and it's uncomfortable to step out and take a position and have people look at you and say, "Now wait a minute, what's Chad doing? I mean, he's making me uncomfortable because I put him in this box. This is my Chad, and he's
Mm.
stepped outside of the box." And so they'll do everything to kind of gather you back into that box. And it's a self preservation for them because now they're uncomfortable because you're stretching, and they compare themselves to you, and they're going, "Oh, I should do that, but I want to be comfortable. And so I'm going to try and shove." We all do it. They call it the crab
Yeah.
syndrome. It's the crabs trying to crawl out of the trap. And what's funny is they can all do it. Every one of them can crawl out of the trap, but they just won't allow each other to do that.
Mm.
And we're more concerned about what people think about us, how we look, or whatever that is. And I'm reading a book that's just really hitting this right on the head. What's funny is when we judge people, we actually judge ourselves because we see that thing that we want to be, and to rationalize it, what we do is we judge them. And it really comes back to this mirror effect of
Mm.
I'm judging myself. The instructions from Jesus, judge not that you be not judged. So
Yeah.
anyway, if you judge, you're absolutely condemning yourself.
Mm.
So that was a lot of words, but I totally agree with what you're saying. We have to reach that uncomfortability. Can I give an example?
Sure. Yeah.
The other day, I had two grandsons. One's 10, the other is 8, and they came over, and we arranged that we were going to have a backyard camp out. We actually wanted to go to the forest, but some family things happened, and so I defaulted to a backyard camp out. Now, that was uncomfortable for me to set up a tent
Oh,
and
sure.
sleep outside in my yard, just a few feet away from my king size wonderful bed, right? Okay.
Right.
But what was really cool is that my purpose was to have them have a good experience. Okay. And so that beat my comfortability of being in my own bed. Okay.
Mm.
And you've heard people, when they ask you about your bicycle races, why do you do that? And it's all about comfort. Okay.
Yeah.
It's all about comfort. And we were sitting there, and I made the decision, okay, we're going to treat this like we were out in the forest. And I had determined that I was going to teach them how to build a fire. Okay, so we were going to have a skill. We were going to build a fire. And then I was going to teach them how to set up a camp, set up a tent, put out their sleeping bag, when to do it, how to do it. And so I pretended like we just arrived at the campground. I said, okay, well, what's the first thing we need to do? Well, we need to set up a tent. Well, no, let's do the fire first, Grandpa. It's always more
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But what I taught them was okay, this is good, but it's going to get dark. And would you rather build a fire in the dark or build your tent and your sleeping bag in the dark? And so we talked that through. I talked them through. I could put the tent up in just a few minutes, but I took the time to let them do it and to struggle with it. And how does this pole go in here? And why is
Yeah.
this, and so we talked that through, and okay, we've got the tent up, and they were, okay, let's go do the fire. And I said, do you have your sleeping bag out? No. I said, okay. So we got that out. Okay, let's go do the fire. And I said, okay, there's one more thing. It's going to be dark by the time the fire goes out. How are you going to find your way back to the tent? Well, I need a flashlight. Yep. You got that in your pocket? And so we're trying to find a flashlight in the daylight rather than trying to make our way back in the dark to a tent. So we started to do the fire. That's there again, I can do it so quickly, but at the same time I'm teaching little kids. So I pull out my pocket knife, and guess what the first thing was? A knife.
Yeah. Terrifying.
Terrifying. So the first thing I had to do was get them over the terrifying nature of a pocket knife. And so we talked about inert things. The pocket knife will not cut you. It's you using it wrong. Okay?
Yeah.
And so we talked that through. And, talking about fire, I taught them that you need three things. You need heat, you need oxygen, and you need fuel. And if you remove one or more of those, the fire will go out or it won't start. So we went through that, and as we were putting it together, and we were looking for tinder, and I could have used gasoline. I had some gasoline in the garage, but what I did was I had them go find some dried grass and some twigs, and it took us about an hour and a half to build this fire because of all the instruction and
Sure.
just
Yeah.
talking that through. If I was after comfort, I would have just built the fire. I would have built the tent, put up the tent, put up their sleeping bag, and we would have had a great time. But they're still talking about how they built a fire, and then they went to the woods with their other grandfather, and they said, "Grandpa, we've got to build a fire. We're out in the woods. We've got to build a fire." And so they built a fire with their other grandpa. That's what happens when you do things on purpose. It's uncomfortable. I could have done it all by myself so much more efficiently. But what happened was it's now effective because now it's teach a man to fish and he'll eat forever. Give a man a fish, he only eats once, right? And that's really what it came down to, is that these kids can probably build a fire. Matches, that was so funny. They've been told their whole life, don't play with matches. And so
Right.
initially it was light the match and just toss it in there, just as fast because it's going to burn you. And I had to get them over that fear of, okay, you got to hang on to the match and then push the tinder up so that the oxygen can get in there and so it will catch. And anyway, so it's just those types of things that you have to be conscious about. Does that make sense? I mean, is that a good?
Yeah. No, that's a great illustration, and it speaks to so much of what family life is, and what leadership is in family, and I think especially for us men, that to recognize that, well, somebody taught us how to do these things, or we figured it out some kind of way, and we're doing the next generation a great disservice if all we're doing is everything for them.
Yeah.
And not teaching or not passing the baton, so to speak, to those younger than us, and whether that's in our blood family and children and grandchildren, or it's just younger people in general. I think that's part of this responsibility of, the greater family, the family of humanity, or the family of our church, or our bloodline. I mean, there's just responsibility there, and let's not give that away, as you said before, to other entities who really don't care, or who have it set up for their own way and agenda. I mean, we need to make those efforts, and sometimes that's really hard.
Exactly. I love that. And everybody has their own agenda. I mean, we can speak, we can be so benevolent, but we all have an agenda, and even benevolent entities have agendas, and that's
Right.
okay. But who cares about my agenda more than me?
Right.
You know, who
Exactly.
who will care for my family more than me?
Yeah.
And I'm gonna answer that question. There's nobody that will care for my family better than me. Now,
Exactly.
now, do I need help? Absolutely, but I need to vet that, and I need to be on purpose about that.
Mm. Yeah, that's good. I want to go back to one thing you said a few minutes ago about the box, about how when I'm trying to level up or, grow and lead and do some things that are very different than maybe, you know, Chad 1.0, um, people are going to want to stuff me back into that box, right? And um, it's going to be very tempting for me to quit by that. I'm speaking for me personally. My fear of rejection or disapproval by others is like the thorn in my side. Trying to overcome that. And so when I'm trying to try new things and grow and lead in a different way than I have before, perhaps, and there's resistance to that, my inclination is going to be, oh, that didn't work. I quit. I give up. And the reality is, I got to figure out how to endure that if I know that what I'm doing is good and right and it pleases the Lord and it honors God and how He has made me and what He has charged me to do and to be as a man and a leader in my family, then I've got to persevere through those kind of things. So I want that to be an encouragement for those of us who are feeling kind of stuck maybe in their spot of leadership and just to hang in there and keep at it and to recognize what is happening and to resist that and to keep going, if that is helpful at all.
Oh, it's really helpful. What's funny is this book that I'm reading. I'll send you the title so that you can. But it talks about fear is loud,
Mm,
and it consumes all your thinking.
mm,
Intuition feels like fear, but it's very quiet, and it won't
mm.
and it won't occupy your mind. You'll be able to forget about it.
Interesting.
And I'm still processing this. I just read it this
Yeah.
morning, but I thought that was interesting. And you think about it, fear is absolutely
Yeah.
loud, okay, and it
Yeah.
is consuming. I mean, it just occupies your mind until you move to a place that you don't feel at risk. But intuition, you've had that little small voice just tell you, okay, Chad, don't do that thing, and we can shove it out. It's not consuming. It's not noisy and consuming. So I'm
Mm,
I'm like I say, I'm still sorting that out. But that started to open my eyes to, okay, is this intuition or is this
mm.
fear?
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. Yeah, that's good.
Me being a parent and saying, okay, I want my children to do this. That's kind of an intuition thing, and you'll start to have ideas of how to do that. But then you'll have this thought come in, yeah, but what will people think? And then all of a sudden that thing's really loud, and you start to find
Mm,
things that support your thinking there. And I'm just, like I said, I'm still
yeah.
processing this, but that was pretty insightful. So
Yeah.
pretty
So let's keep after the hard work of loving and leading well, and that's going to require some uncomfortable action. And we're not proposing any special tactics or tricks or things here that you need to check off on a list, but you just got to, continue working on yourself and leveling up and applying what we learn.
one thing I do think,
That's the encouragement for myself.
yeah, one thing I do think is required is you got to make the decision that you're a leader.
Yeah.
You know, even if it's just for yourself, you're a leader.
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
Anyway, we better let you run.
Yeah, this is really good. Thanks. I appreciate it. More encouragement about family stuff. And this is absolutely a mental fitness exercise. And so just thanks for the conversation.
It's always good to visit. Thank you, Chad.
All right. Have a
Have a
great
good
week.
week. We'll see you.